Hello! Welcome to episode number 21. There's my 22, I don't remember what number it was. Of Nick Lenz's Comic Corner. Classic / non-classics. We know our review, so let's just skip the Forte intro, let's skip the rest, and get started with this episode. In this episode, I'm reviewing Nightwing on the Razor's Edge. Nice looking cover. Here's Nightwing. Now, actually, it's 3 characters inside. Catwoman. This came out just before the second volume ended, the story itself. Came out in 2001, the book came out in 2005. Black Canary. In the outfit I don't like her in. It's not my favorite outfit. I prefer the fishnet stockings outfit over fishnet stockings and the black, I prefer that outfit better than this one. This character is a character known as Strike, and he has a history with Dick Grayson. Now, there's no overarching story arc with this. Not really very much. It just connects at some points. Now, this book is really thick. Look how thick this book is. This book has got 8 issues in it. Okay? It has issues. Let me find a number here. 52 and 54 to 60. Okay, you're probably thinking, well, in the previous one, they had 40s and 50. I think that was a Hunt for Oracle. This one, where's 50 and 53? Excellent question. 51 has never been collected. Well, for one reason, because Chuck Dixon didn't write the issue. 2, it doesn't focus on this Nightwing. It's focused on the crazy vigilante Nightwing. There's a hyphen between there. And issue 53 is collected in the Batman New Gotham Volume 2 Officer Down, because it's part of the Officer Down crossover. Now, this book is written, the stories are in here, written by Chuck Dixon, and Greg Land and Drew Gersey does the artwork. Let's see if I can get 1 second. Thank you. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Sorry, I'm battling mild cold here. One thing I love about these good trade paperbacks. Marvel doesn't do this very much, but it does have all the cast characters in it. Besides Nightwing, Catwoman, there's Oracle in here, Black Canary, Blockbuster, Nightwing's main arch nemesis up into issue 93, Torque, a dirty cop. This is what he looks like. Yeah, that's Torque. This is the Nightwing character who basically takes up issue 51. And this down here, this is Strike. I have never heard of this character before, but according to what I've read about him in this book, he has a history with Dick Grayson. Okay? Now, apparently, oh, yes, also forgot this one on my page. There's also Stallion, Brutal, Lady Vic, Mouse and Gloves, Executioner, and of course, Williams Police Department. These characters from Electrocutioner up, these guys all work for Blockbuster and are members of Nightwing's Rogues Gallery. Yes. But at some point, his Rogues Gallery disappears after Bloodhaven's destroyed. Yes. Now, Catwoman is apparently getting married to Batman, but it's all a dream. It's all an illusion. It's all a dream by Selena Kyle. Yeah, that's how a book starts out. Yeah, she's wearing her purple outfit, but it's not as bad as it was back in the 90s. She's fighting Dick Grayson. And then something unexpected happens. They make out and sort of have sex on top of a roof while these guys are shooting at them. She fights them. Yeah, this only lasts for like 1 issue. Yeah, this is a one-shot issue of them being together. After this, she does throw the book over again. That was issue 52. That possibly does continue in Officer Down. Next is the first story. Now, I can list all the stories in here. The first story is called Modern Romance. Yes. That's from issue 52. 54 is In the Middle of the Cold, Cold Night. Yeah, this is basically just a regular. This is a regular Nightwing story. Shows up Blockbuster. This is what he looks like in the book. I don't mind the artwork in here. This is not bad. Shows off his partner, Amy. It's also this book that he becomes a full-time. He goes from trainee to regular officer in this book. That's the only minor spoiler in here. Yeah. Let's see. Here's the entire almost the entire Rogues Gallery on one page, with the exception of Blockbuster. This is a rarity for a character to have this entire Rogues Gallery in one panel. The only reason why this is because all these characters work for Blockbuster. And of these 5 characters, let me point this out, Lady Vic, she's right here. No. Lady Vic is here. She's the only one actually in New 52. Except that she's a lesbian in New 52, and she's in a Batwing for 2 issues. As for everybody else, the Electrocutioner's dead. I'm not sure about the rest of these characters, but I know he's dead. I know Blockbuster's dead, yes. And then it ends basically with showing off the debut of the character known as Strike. And pretty much most of this book deals with him versus Nightwing. Yes, and he does know Dick Grayson. Does show off Torque and the Nightwing character. Not related to regular Nightwing at all. He was inspired by Nightwing on Vigilante, but he's more violent. He's kind of like the series version of Jason Todd. And next story, which is from issue 55, I believe it is. Let's see if I can find the name of the story in here. It's called Love and Death. That's issue 55. The only ones I can tell the issues because that's how many stories are in here. Let's see. That's the 3rd story in the book. It's just basically just them meeting up with each other. Drop the character Clancy, Lady Vic fighting him. Now he doesn't kill Lady Vic, which is kind of a good thing. He does smash her mask a bit. Yeah. And this story ends with Oracle and Dick Grayson having, well, it's implied that they had sex. Yes. And it shows up in a brief flashback of Dick Grayson as Robin and the Batman. I believe this is issue 56. This is by far the only time in this book that I can think of where Batman does show up in the book. This is the only time he shows up in the book. And they show up Black Canary in the costume I don't like her in. Yeah, that's her Birds of Prey outfit. That's her 90s Birds of Prey outfit. Then they switch it back. And she accidentally catches them in the shower. Now, this is during a time when she's a member of the Birds of Prey. She had just recently met Barbara Gordon. She had never met her before. Yeah. I keep wondering that when this guy walking with his head backwards, how the heck does he not run into anything with his head backwards like that? It makes no sense. Yeah. Of course, Oracle and Black Canary talk to her for a bit. She does this typical girl talk. It's a pretty good story. Oh, I love this one. Yes, Never Dies. I think it's issue 57. It shows off. It opens up. This issue 57 opens up with this beautiful page with Dick Grayson in his 4 costumes. Well, his original Robin costume, well, I think it's the second one. Then his original Nightwing costume that he wore for years, and his current Nightwing costume. This is his 3rd costume that he's in right now in the series. Right now, it's usually his 4th, where it's instead of where it's still all black, but instead of blue, it's red. Yeah, this is 57. Fights the Executioner. They somewhat unmask him, but they don't know who he is. Yeah. Torque basically doesn't do very much in this story. Yeah, pretty much the whole point of this story from issues 54 to 60 is just Nightwing versus Strike. They're connected stories, but it's not a story arc. Black Canary shows up to help him. She's just a guest star in this thing. Yeah, she's not really much part of it. Let's see. Good, I got plenty of time. And the story ends basically with, A World of Hate, which is, I think, it's issue 57, 58, 57. it ends with basically Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon making out. Now, where's Freddy mine? This right here. Look at his mask. It kind of reminds me of New 52 mask that he wears now. This one's an also Tech Dixon store. I think it's from issue 58 or 59. I think it's 58. Yeah. It has nothing to do with the strike stuff. It's just basically stuff dealing with Dick Grayson being finally accepted from on the police force as a full officer. He also became a detective. Okay, and that story ends. Yeah, it's a very quick story. Then you got The Threshold, which I believe this is issue 60. And I think this is the final issue of the book. I could be wrong. Yeah. Now he and Amy, as far as I know, do not go in a relationship. She does become chief of the police force later on. Yes. Just brief. And that's how the book ends. Yeah. Overall, good book. 5 out of 5. Nightwing on the Razor's Edge. It's a good story. It's a good book to read. If you have the time to read 8 frickin' issues. 53, I don't have much of a problem putting not putting here because it's probably not a crossover. But 51, they should have put that in there. That's the only complaint about this, because 51 is not in here. It has no crossover. Just because Chuck Dixon did not write the issue, you still could have put it in there. I've seen Marvel do it all the time, where basically where some people who actually are regular writers, where they skip an issue, and yet they put the issue in the trade paperback. DC, on their hand, has this stupid practice back then of, if a regular writer doesn't write a particular issue, we don't put it in there. That's my only complaint about this, is the fact 51 is not in here. But, overall, it's a good story. It's not a story arc. It's just basically continuing Nightwing's adventures in Bloodhaven. Now, up until let's say Batman Reborn, should say, there was no regular story arcs in any of the Batman books. Well, Robin, yes, but Nightwing, no, because his stories are basically a bunch of standalone stories. Very rarely that they actually sort of connect to each other. Like in here, you have a 3-part Sterling thing with that character known as Strike, or I don't know, maybe who else is in here. But overall, this is a good book. Alright? I do recommend getting it, if you can find it on Amazon, because it's been out for almost 9 years. I was looking to get this book from the library. That's why the sticker was on there. Alright? Now, here's a teaser for the next episode. Stay tuned.